All right, welcome to another episode of the Saturday Sauna Night podcast. I'm Steve, and I have with me tonight, this is my no brother good-in-law. This is my brother-in-law, Chris, and we have firearm deer season coming up here, just short of 2 weeks now. And for people bow hunting, that's already been going on for a month, right?
Yep.
Since October 1st.
October 1st.
And so Kyle and I have talked a little bit about it. We got some blinds set up, and we're gonna go out this year. I took a year off last year. Kyle's never deer hunted. So
didn't he buy a gun this year?
He did. He got the same rifle I have. It's that Savage Axis 30-06.
So that would be a good story. We could talk about your first year too.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the misfire there. But I needed someone who had some better buck stories than me. I've only hunted a handful of years. I didn't start until I was an adult. So I wanted to bring Chris on here. So you've been out a little bit, like sitting in the tree stand, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I got about 5 cameras out now.
Okay. Kind of scattered.
Scattered between probably 3-mile radius from camp. And the biggest buck I got on camera right now is a 6-pointer.
Okay.
A couple smaller forks, and but each blind's got about 4 does coming in nonstop. So I'm hoping a bigger buck will come through.
Yeah. Well, and this is kind of
it's pretty warm out too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the weather has been weird because we're still a ways away from the firearm opener, but we had a bunch of snow and then it melted, and now here it is. We're into November now, and it's 70 degrees outside today. And then we got a bunch of rain coming in this weekend, and it's gonna cool off. But
I did have a cool picture about 2 weeks ago. I had a picture of a bobcat come walking through. Yeah, and it was kind of funny because I was like, "Oh, look at my 6-pointer," and I protected the camera chip for the 6-pointer, and then I just hit erase, and I don't know what I was thinking. And my dad goes, "Let me see a picture of the bobcat or cougar you got on there," and I went,
"Well, because I saw you posted a picture of the bobcat."
Yeah,
right?
I posted a picture of the bobcat.
Are you talking about the cougar?
Well, that was the bobcat picture.
Oh, okay.
I deleted it, but my friend was able to recover the picture.
Oh,
and then I was able to really look at it, and I said, "Yep, it's a true bobcat."
Okay, that's still cool though. Well, and you had been sitting out a handful of days too, because you had a bear tag this year.
Yeah, I got a bear tag. I just had a mom and 3 cubs coming in pretty steady there at the end, and then that was it. I had three nicer bears that I was hoping to shoot. That 150 class. Nothing.
Were they just coming in at night, or
they were coming in the day? Problem is I work afternoons, and it's hard to get on the afternoon. So every weekend I would go out, and it would pour down rain, and I would be like, I don't feel like wounded a bear, Yeah. But I did sit a couple times, and of course nothing really comes in when it's 60 degrees out there in the beginning.
Yeah. Because that starts pretty early, right?
Well, there's 3 seasons.
Okay.
So you got early season, second season, and third season.
Okay.
So mine was from September 12th to the October 26th.
So when you draw a tag, does that you only get one of those seasons?
You can pick from, and then you got a different unit too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you want to talk a bit about these racks you brought in here?
So, I guess this one is a good story. This is one of my 8s that I've shot.
And you said that's from up here, right?
That's from up here. That's about 3 years. 3 years ago.
Buck.
UP buck. So it was like after work, I said I'm gonna go bait my blinds. So I said, all right. So camp's probably 45 minutes away, and I get to my blind, and some in my mind, or parking spot, some in my mind says, "Bring your bow with you," which I never bring my bow when I'm walking and baiting. And so I'm walking in, happen to look up where the bait pile is, and there's 2 bucks, one like this one, or this buck, and another smaller buck. So I put my bucket down, like we all do, crunch down and nock an arrow. It's probably a 30-yard shot. Get the bow up, and we all been there where you get jumpy, and I was just getting level with the back and start lowering down, and my release goes off. And my gut just drops, and the deer runs away, and I go, now what?
Did you know if you had hit it at that point?
At that point, I knew that the arrow stuck in it and it ran away.
Okay.
So I sat on the bucket right there for like a good 45 minutes before I even walked up to the bait pile, because I just didn't want to, I knew I made a bad shot. So I walk, finally I get up to it. There's hair and a little bit of blood, and I'm like, all right. So I went back to camp. Called my dad, waited 45, probably an hour. Probably longer than that, but it was getting dark actually. So I remember with me, Andy, and my dad with lights and a lantern.
You went out and looked for it that
night. We looked for it that night. Found a little bit of blood, no arrow. So I'm like, well, it must be carrying the arrow.
Yeah.
And then eventually I found a piece of arrow about that long. And I'm like, okay. Or no, I found the whole arrow except that much missing out of it.
Okay, so just the tip.
So I'm like, well, it's got to be somewhere. I mean, and it's either in the deer or... So I took the next day off of work. So it would have been a Thursday. Wandered all through the swamps, all through the hardwoods. Never found it. And I'm like, all right, well, must have made it, or I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was just gone. Hey?
It's just gone. So about a week later goes by, and what do you know? There's a picture of this buck on my chill camera. And I'm like, it made it, and it's got a hole in its back. And
you could see that on the trail
I could see
photo.
the hole, like a spot where I've hit it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm glad I made it. It makes me feel a little bit better. So then now it's firearm deer season. All moment we were all waiting for, Never had this buck on camera past after that for a while. And it's probably getting later in the season, and all of a sudden this buck comes walking through. And I didn't know it was him at first. It was just, I was just like, oh, it's an 8-pointer, and I'm like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I get my gun up, I shoot it. It falls right there. Wait a second or two, and I walk over and I go, huh, it's the buck that I hit with my bow.
So you didn't realize that till after?
I didn't realize it after.
That's great. That's a really nice deer too.
So it's a decent buck. It's a UP buck for anybody.
Yeah.
And then, I was able to drag it halfway, and the guys from camp came there, and we drug it, and it was one of those bucks you'll always remember.
So you don't have to describe like your location, but was it one of your named spots that you set up at? I
call it no man's land.
Oh, so I think I've been out to that one with you once.
Yeah. And it's there's a main road, but then there's a road that circles around the road, and it's just this little strip of woods that goes in between. So
wait, what year was this? Was this recent, or was this a while ago?
Probably 3 years ago.
Okay.
3,
so was
4?
Was it a year I was hunting then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So it would have been 4 years ago, I guess.
Okay.
But
gotcha.
Yeah, it was a good memory. Another one was a really good story. I was probably 14, and we parked the truck, and it was one of our last days of, it's time to pull the blinds.
Yeah.
How we're all like just discouraged because you haven't seen a buck and you don't got one.
Well, that season goes by so fast.
Yeah, it's
not like trout season where it's like you have the entire spring and summer and
it was a good. So I grabbed the gun and I'm walking down, and I got this little rise you can look and like at the bait pile, and there's a buck standing there, and I don't have the buck here. It's at camp, but I was like, my dad's like, shoot. So I get my gun up, and my glove, the safety you push forward, and the glove was just slipping on the safety. I couldn't get it off. So I grab my glove like this, and I'm trying to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to push it, and I get the gun back up, and I freehanded it at 50 yards. Boom! I shoot it, it drops. So I go rack another bullet in, and I look up, my dad's already touching the horns down at the bait pile. And I was like, well, I guess it's dead.
You didn't waste any time getting
I didn't waste
there.
any time.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged if you're not seeing deer out there.
Pays to wait it
It
out,
pays to wait, and it just, it'll come to you.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing, it's a lot less deer depending on what area you're at, too. I mean, I got does coming in, but it's like last year. I think I had 2 8-pointers. My dad shot an 8, and I shot an 8, and a few smaller bucks. But it wasn't like at least we're in our area where we're at.
Yeah. Well, and I took last year off, like I mentioned. I still haven't set up a camera this year. I'm hoping to maybe do that this weekend. The last 2 years I hunted, excluding last year, so it would have been 2019 and 2020. I hunted this same spot, and I got quite a few does on camera. I had one, maybe 4 or 5 point.
You had one buck on there.
Yep, I remember that, and never actually had anything with antlers come in.
Well, you were pretty busy too with school and.
Yeah, I didn't hunt that many days, and I'm probably not going to this year. It's probably going to be. I'm gonna guess I'll get out the weekend after the opener, so like the 19th or whatever.
Which I always feel that's when you would want to be in the woods.
Yeah, I mean it kind of settles down after that initial.
If I was guessing my area, if I was gonna take the week off, it'd be the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I'll get out Thanksgiving week then too.
I don't know what it is, if it's the rut that starts slowing down in that area or what, but.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was that day before Thanksgiving. I think that's when I got that first deer.
Yep.
So that one, it's not that great of a story, but so I had just gotten into hunting the year before. The very first year, I borrowed equipment from my father-in-law, his dad. So a rifle and a blind that was already set up and stuff, and never actually saw any bucks. Then the second year, I bought a rifle, 30-06 Savage, and
that was brand new.
It was brand new, yeah. Well, and I bought, I just kind of bought whatever they recommended at the the sporting goods store for ammo. So I got the Hornady, the American Whitetail, which was supposed to be like top of the line stuff.
Yep. And
so we, I shot it a few times, just kind of sighting it in. Seemed to work fine, but then. This is later in the season. I had this spike horn coming in, and even though it was gonna be my first deer, I initially didn't really want to shoot a spike. I thought, I don't really want a deer that bad, so I let it go, and it came in a few times. Well, then one day, this is the day before Thanksgiving, I had actually left to go back into town, and I thought, you know what, you were still out there. You were gonna sit the evening. So I decided I'm gonna go sit out there too, in your dad's spot.
In your spot, didn't you try to shoot the deer once before?
No, I had seen it come in.
Okay.
Yep, and that.
So then you sat
just down from over the bank.
So one of our other spots is called Over the Bank, which is
literally over
the bank,
over the bank from the road.
Like 80 yards off the main road.
Yeah.
Like you can almost see it if you knew it was there.
But it's pretty rugged and wooded, really well wooded area. But anyway, I decided to go sit there for a few more hours, and this deer came in again, and I had seen it probably 4 times at that point, different days, and it was one of the last days I was gonna be hunting. So I thought, you know what, let's try it. And so I went to take the shot with this new rifle, and the gun just goes click. And so I've never shot a deer before. I'm like, what is going on? Making triple checking that the safety's off, and that I actually had racked a bullet, and I it was in there. And so I took the bullet out, and there was an indent in the back from where the firing pin trips it, and it just didn't fire. And so I tried again.
So you racked another one in.
Racked another one. Yep. Tried it again. At this point I'm making some noise. The deer's kind of looking at me. I know they don't see that well straight on, but still it kind of makes you more nervous when they start looking at you like that. Went through the 4 bullets I had, and
Well, at that time, then right after you texted me,
Yeah.
and I said, and I've already shot deer over the years, and I was like, okay, my brother-in-law. I said, I'll go bring my gun to my brother-in-law.
Well, yeah, and you were only probably in a straight line, like a mile away.
Like a mile away. So, and I just got to my blind, and I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Yeah. So he comes back with his rifle and sits with me for a bit, and the deer was gone at this point. And just before dark, it comes back in, and he's sitting there with me, and I have it, I'm using his gun, and I shoot it, and it drops, and
we tried to videotape it, but someone with my phone didn't.
And so it was exciting because it was my first deer. It was just it was a spike, but it was still
it was probably 5-6 inches spike though.
But it was good eating, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And that was your first buck you ever gutted too, right?
Yeah,
with me.
Well, it was the first. Yeah, I mean the
deer,
first,
obviously
first deer I've ever shot or been with someone. My dad deer hunted years ago, but then he kind of got out of it, and so I never got back into it till later. But yeah, so that was an interesting story. What about this one here? This big one.
So this one is from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I don't know. It's probably 3. So this one's probably 4 years ago. That one's probably 3 years ago because when COVID hit 2019.
So this was 2020. Because that's
21,
the
22.
year you guys were out there all together.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, because that was the year I hunted, and it was just me and your dad.
Yeah, and I was so me and my uncles went to Pennsylvania where my grandpa lives to go deer hunting, and my original plan was to leave October 31st and then come back just before rifle season, so like the 10th of November. Well, somebody had other plans. I ended up getting COVID. Both uncles ended up getting COVID, and my grandma and grandpa did.
You were all in the house together, quarantine.
So at the time, I didn't know I had it first before everybody else, and I'm just not feeling good. And it's like 30 days, walking around looking. So my Uncle Jay goes, "Hey, do you want to go sit in my spot since you're not feeling good?" And I said, "All right." So it's in the morning, and I climb up the tree, and it's like 10 o'clock, and you know how like with COVID you can't really breathe.
Yeah,
and my lungs, I was like, I just have to cough and let out the lung stuff, phlegm.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, just get it over with. And by that time I'm feeling dizzy, and I'm like, I should probably get down because it's just not feeling good. Well, as soon as I said that in my brain, I hear and I'm like looking around. I'm like, I know in my mind that's a buck. And straight in front of me, there's this big pine tree, and a doe steps out, and I'm like, well, that's not the sound I'm thinking I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then I wait. And then sure enough, this guy steps out. And I waited for a little while, and I'm like, all right, there's just one little window to be able to shoot. So I pull my bow back, and I'm like, all right, one more step, front shoulder's open.
Mm-hmm.
And I held my bow back for like 3 minutes. I felt like I had my elbow on again.
Is he just...
Just standing there broadside, but there was just a little bit of like twig brush in front of the front shoulder.
Was he just watching the doe, or was he eating? Like,
he was just standing there looking around, looking at the doe.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right, you shoot. And I didn't want to like shoot, and I don't want to, I didn't want to like go like that and have it run away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one little hole in the the brush that it was clear. And I felt comfortable in the shot when I shot. And it runs off, and the doe stood there, and I was like, I'm like, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not feeling good, so I'm like, all right, I'll just sit shaking now, because, you get, every time you ever shoot, or at least I ever shoot a deer, you shake, and
your adrenaline goes up.
And it's just like, so I text my uncle, I'm like, I shot a decent 8. He's like, all right, we'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going anywhere. It's just like a mile down the road, so it's not like I'm going down into town or.
Right.
And at this time, I'm still not feeling good, and So both uncles go, all right, now where did the deer go? Where was the deer standing? And I was like, right there. Well, we don't see any blood. And I was like, great. But I knew I had a good shot on it.
Did you know you hit him?
I knew I hit it, and I just, it was not the best shot, but I knew I was out, like one of those shots where it should die.
Yeah.
So I was like, I knew where it landed, or went in front of me, walked around, or ran up behind me.
Okay.
So I went straight to the last time I seen it. Found my arrow, just covered in blood. I was like, okay, did good. And it probably went about, I don't know, 80 yards, and found it. And drug it back to camp, or my grandpa's house, I guess. And It was one of those things. Right after that, we all got COVID, and we had to stick around till almost November 14th, because back then you had to quarantine for 2 weeks once you knew you had COVID.
Yeah, that was in the early stages of that, and so you weren't out at camp.
So I missed November 15th, and I was able to make the last week for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But by that time, it's, everything's done. But I had some nice bucks that year on camera. But yeah, it was.
You didn't end up shooting one up here that year, then, did you?
No, okay. I never did.
Yeah, gotcha.
By that time, it was too late.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, but
it's a nice deer though. I mean, if you're gonna have to.
But there's way bigger bucks than this. My uncle seen one that was way past its ears, and but we were all sick. We just couldn't get out of.
Yeah. Well, so I've never hunted anywhere except up here. So how is hunting out in Pennsylvania, where you guys go? How's that different from up here?
In the area where we were, you have to shoot 4 on one side.
Okay.
For a buck. So, but almost every buck you see is at least 4 on one side. Yeah. Because their growing rate is a lot faster than ours. Yeah. So like a 1.5-year-old buck is a nice 8, or a nice 6-pointer for out that way.
Well, their winters just aren't as
harsh. Yeah, their winters they get more food out that way.
Yeah.
But birds out there are really good. I'm up to like 14 birds for the year. Oh. Just walking around by my blinds and first for my life there, so I'm walking there, heading to my blind, and there's 2 birds standing there side by side, and I was like, whoa. I was like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, I wonder if I can get 2 with 1 shot. And of course, I gotta chance it. So I get the gun up, shoot, both birds fall.
Really?
And I was like,
literally killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
And I did it.
That's great.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. Also, I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit now. So, these are some impressive bucks, and hopefully this is what I aspire to get eventually. Even a nice 6-point, I'd be pretty happy with. But you got to put in the time, and you do. You spent, it can be tough to be able to go out and sit, all day after day, especially when you got a family and you work and all that sort of thing. But you've been hunting along with your dad and and Andy. You guys have been hunting out of that camp like you pretty much your whole life.
Pretty much my whole life since I was 12.
That's cool too, just to have. And last week when I was talking with BG Bradley about duck hunting, he's got a family camp, and he's been going there since he was a kid, and he's in his 60s now, which just talked about the history of it. But
that's cool.
So how what I guess what does that mean, or is that like how is that make going out and hunting special out in that same spot year after year?
The camp or the
the camp and I know you kind of move spots throughout the years, but
it's like just all the memories that you get. You pull into camp and memories just flood in from over the years, and it like you don't think about work, you don't think about hardly anything. Like the fall colors, riding around in the woods. It's I don't know. It just makes me relax when you're. I don't even care if I shoot a deer. It's just family sitting around, just having fun, campfires.
Food's usually pretty good too.
Oh yeah, we
get some good cooking out there.
Yeah, my best friend there, the camp son there, he cooks us ribs, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
My dad always does a fish fry.
Yeah.
Friday night there, and
yeah,
it's just. I don't know. It's just a special camp.
Yeah. Well, to have that, where you have the family tie and been out there since you were a kid. I mean, I didn't start hunting with you guys, like I said, till I was an adult, and that was always one of my favorite parts. Still is just like driving out there. Initially the first few years we were still living down in Manistee, so it was a long, it was a good 2.5 hour drive to get up there, and a lot of the times it's, you start down in Manistee and it's, raining or something, and then by the time you get up like Trinary, it's snowing.
It's a little bit snowing.
Then you get out like Koski Corners and it's like a blizzard. But no, that's one of the best parts, I think, and I think that's why a lot of people like to go out to camp is. I mean, the hunting's one thing, but being able to go out and hang out and friends and family and eat good food and just not have to just kind of, turn this off sort of, and not literally, but just
take a sauna,
get away from work. Yeah, you can feel the stress melt away. It's great. Yeah,
it's special.
Yeah, well, and there's been some nice deer taken, based out of that camp over the years.
The biggest, I don't know if it was out of that camp. The original camp owner, his biggest was a 16 pointer that he shot way back in the 80s.
There's one on the wall in there that's a 10, isn't it?
Those two are 8s.
8s, they're big 8s.
They're big 8s. They're
real tall.
The tines on those are roughly about 12 inches, almost every one, and the spread's about 19 inches on both of them.
It's massive. Well, and there's been some nice fish taken out of that lake too.
There's a lake right beside it. Yeah. It's got nice bluegills and crappies in it.
Yeah. Well, and so the fish that are on the wall in camp are those are
from the lake.
From the lake, hey? Yeah. Well, I know you've had a few.
I've had a few
mounted
crappie
out of there, hey.
Yeah, we had I believe it's almost 16-inch crappie.
Yeah. Well, and this summer we were out there just kind of having a get-together on the 4th of July, and I decided I would just go out and paddle around for a bit with my kayak. I had been out that morning at a different lake, brook trout fishing, and just caught a couple little ones that we threw back, but thought, what the heck, we got time to kill before dinner's ready, and the kids are kind of, running around and playing, and everyone's kind of visiting, and I went out and paddled around, and
I was over the 4th of July.
That was on the 4th, yeah. Yep, and I hook into this big crappie, and I've never really, I caught a couple smaller ones just by accident before fishing for other stuff, and I caught one that's actually at the taxidermist. I don't know when I'll get it back. It's been
that was what, 15 inches?
Slow going. 14.
14?
Or just over 14, yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, so when so today is the 2nd. Are you gonna go out and sit in the tree stand this weekend?
This weekend I'll be out.
Okay.
If it's not raining too hard.
Yeah.
My plan is next weekend to really start hunting because the rut should be starting to kick in then.
Okay.
I've found 2 scrapes on the ground under a tree, so they're starting.
Okay.
In my area, rubs are a little bit later. They're almost to rifle season when I start seeing those here and there. But yeah, you should be good. Just remember to keep your bait to 2 gallons of bait on the ground.
Yeah, because we're still in an area where you can bait, but it is limited to 2 gallons, like you said. And I think they say what is it, a 10 foot by 10 foot?
It's got to be at a 10 by 10 area.
Yeah. So, because there's some areas.
It's the chronic wasting.
Yeah,
disease.
so the Wisconsin border counties, right? You can't
like
bait
Marinette County, some areas, and
Dickinson too, right?
Yeah,
some parts. Yep.
That no baiting allowed.
Yep. I know some people do like the food plot thing too, which I don't really know exactly.
I'm not sure about that either.
I think that's probably a bigger thing when in more like the farm country.
Yeah.
Like Menominee County and stuff. We got the farm fields and.
Speaking of deer bait, I just picked 7 5-gallon buckets full of apples yesterday.
Oh, nice. I've been meaning to go out and do that. We have an apple tree down our road that's been dropping apples, and there's a bunch up by my parents' house too there. I gotta go get. Yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts about the upcoming season here? I mean, you're already out bow hunting, but
I'm bow hunting, so I kind of got an idea what's coming and going.
Just the one buck so far that's coming in?
Yeah, 1.6 is my biggest, but I'm curious to see what's on there this week.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling, well, the areas where I'm hunting is more prone towards rifle season.
Yeah, well, and we're gonna have a change in the weather here this weekend.
It should be starting to come to food.
It's gonna cool down. It's gonna rain a bit. We've had kind of this warm, high pressure south winds gusting every day for a few days now, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that changes because there's almost 2 weeks till the rifle opener. So
can't wait. I'll be out there.
All right. Well, Chris, thanks for talking today. This has been Saturday Sauna Night. I'm Steve. Thanks for listening.